back to my channel. So as you can probably tell from the description of this video, today we are talking about anthuriums and specifically anthurium breeding. I have been hesitant to film an anthurium breeding video only because, you know, I don't consider myself a professional. A lot of what I have learned has been self-taught. I kind of try this, try that, and see what works and see what doesn't. Hold on, my dog needs me. What I was saying is, you know, a lot of what I have done has just been self-taught. So if at any point in this video I say something that you think is incorrect, please feel free to comment. I'm always open to learning new things. So yeah. Let's start off. So I've made a few notes. I guess I wanted to start by first kind of explaining the basics of, and we're gonna go very basic here. I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but basically the starting of breeding your anthurium. So as your plant matures, it will flower, which is called an inflorescence. Usually, from my experience in growing plants from, you know, immaturity to maturity, the first few inflorescences are very small, and from experience I can positively say don't do it because it's just a waste, especially if you're, you know, wanting to make a cool hybrid that you've been storing pollen for. Just don't do it. They're too immature. They aren't gonna be good seed bearers, even if those seeds do, you know, become seeds, which a lot of times they don't even become seeds, but if they do become seeds, the chances of them being like a weak and hard to grow and just kind of slow and is very high. So usually I don't pollinate my small inflows. You know, I usually wait until they're quite a bit more mature. So usually that's 2 or 3 or 4 flowering cycles. I do collect the pollen though. So I'm kind of in the phase, again, I'm experimenting as I go. And if someone is, you know, already done this and can say otherwise, please let me know. But, you know, I am storing the pollen from these younger plants. Some of them in the hopes that I can self the plant with its own pollen, and others I'm using it on other plants. I so far have found that the pollen, you know, is usable, whereas don't use the plant as a mother when it's young. Your first stage of your inflorescence is the female stage. So this is the receptive stage. I'm gonna take a picture of a plant that I have right now. It has a lot of, we call it it is called stigmatic fluid. That is the receptive stage of the inflorescence. So I'll post a picture right here of a plant that I have so you can see. This is when your plant is receptive. So this is when you would want to put pollen on the plant. I find I usually like to let the inflorescence be completely receptive before I pollinate it, because usually it will start to be receptive at the bottom of the inflorescence, and it'll take, it depends on the plant, but usually a couple days before it comes fully receptive. So once you've pollinated it, or I guess we'll talk about stage 2. So if you did not, either way, if you pollinate it, if you don't pollinate it, the plant will go into the second stage, which is the pollen stage. This is considered the male stage. And I will, again, I'll take a picture and I'll post a picture right here of the pollen stage so you'll be able to see. If you are planning on selfing a plant, and I will go into what selfing is if anybody doesn't know next, but if you are planning on selfing your plant, you can store this pollen. So if you store your first pollen and you wait for another inflow to come, and then you use your stored pollen on the receptive following inflow. I like to store my pollen in the freezer. I try to use it pretty quickly. Ideally, I do like to, you know, just use fresh pollen. So I try and find matches of things that are, you know, syncing up for time-wise. If there's a specific cross I'm trying to make, you know, sometimes we have to store pollen. Or sometimes we don't have anything receptive and we store pollen and wait for something to become receptive. So basically, once you've pollinated the plant, you wait. You just wait. I get asked, you know, a lot of times, how do I know if it's taken and if it's gonna have berries. Some signs to look for that you, one, it's successful, and two, it's not. So an unsuccessful pollination, obviously your inflorescence is going to yellow and it's going to die off. The signs that it was successful, in my experience, I noticed that the inflorescence actually starts to swell. So you'll kind of notice it get a little bit swollen at first, is what my first indicator usually that I can tell that it is taken. And then obviously it will start to create little bumps, which will then become berries. So I'm gonna post a little picture here. I'll show you a couple different stages of an inflorescence and the berry production of the inflorescence. Again, if I'm using the wrong terminology, I'm sorry. I am not one for all these specific terminologies, so please correct me in the comments if I'm saying something wrong, but I'm hoping that I'm just kind of giving you the basics that you can take with your plants at home. So a little bit ago, I spoke about a selfed plant. So what is a self plant? A selfed plant, or a cross self, you might see, you know, for example, I have, and I've shown you, RA5 cross self. So what that means is the mother plant, the Papillomaminum RA5, was selfed with its own pollen. So as I was speaking earlier, you know, let's say we're at the beginning of it, an inflow comes up, the pollen is collected, a second inflow comes up, and that original pollen is used to pollinate on the same mother plant. So that is what a self means. Sometimes you'll get lucky and there will be, timing wise, 2 inflows on the plant and you can just do the deed all at once. But other than that, you do have to freeze the pollen and then use it when the next one comes up. Clones and cutting. So what is the difference between a selfed plant seedling and a clone versus a cutting, clone cutting? So a clone or a cutting is a propagation from a plant usually via stem cutting. So this means that when you get a cutting, if you have, you know, plant A, you love plant A, you want plant A, the only way you're gonna really know that you're getting that exact look is to get a clone or a cutting from that exact plant. When you self plants, there is a chance that, you know, it's not gonna look like the mother plant. There's variation. Anytime you breed plants, there's gonna be a variation. So if you have your heart set on a specific clone of a plant and you love that plant, you should be looking at getting a cutting clone from that plant. These usually do come at a higher cost because it's just what it is. Okay, so hopefully that is all clear as mud. And in the next part of this video, I'm gonna just flip you around in the camera and I'm gonna show you a few plants that I have pollinated, some berries growing. We'll pollinate some plants in this next part of the video, and then I will show you kind of my process in the shared, what do I call it? The communal living babies that were from seed, and then the process of taking them out into their individual pots, and then stage 2 of growing them out to be bigger plants. So I will be back. Okay, so I thought we would start out by just sharing a few of my mother plants. This one is exciting. So, sorry, the light is going to be hard to see. But this one is actually a plant that I made. So this is my Crystal Mag crossed with Luxuriance. I have pollinated this one with red crystallinum. And the reason I did that is because hopefully it's showing up on screen. The veins on this one are very, very pink. I'll throw up a picture of it here in better lighting so you can kind of see. But so I have, actually, let me just pull this plant out of here because the lighting is probably better down here. Sorry, the floors are dirty. So I have, is that gonna show? So I have pollinated this. Now, it's too early for me to know if it has taken yet, but you know, I'm gonna keep a close eye on it and hopefully I will know in the next couple of weeks. I've got a crystallinum back there. This is my Maglux that I made. right, and over here, so this is another Crystal Meg Luxe that I made. I kept 3 of this batch when they came out, when I did them together. This one here just doesn't have as much of the pink veining in it. It is flowering as well. So here is kind of a flower before it's even receptive. And yeah, let's go over here. All right, up here I have, again, the lighting is gonna be horrible, but I've got, this is a Space Hijau plant. Let me just, ooh, she's full of water. We won't do that. Super excited for this one to start to flower. It hasn't yet, but very excited to use this one in the breeding program. I have this one back here, and this was one that I got from Amanda. This is a Papillolaminum Wonder Boy. So you can see it has an inflow right there. It's still quite small, but I did notice there is it going to, nope, it's not. Anyways, you can see there, it is going to flower again. So this would be a potential candidate to self-pollinate, you know, let that go to pollen. And then when this one emerges and is receptive, pollinate it. Might have to, depending on the speed of it, might have to freeze that pollen for a little bit. Usually I'll try and let it stay on the inflow. All right, I'm gonna bring you down to another section here. I'll show you this one too, because I love it. This is my X1 cross X1 from Hendry as well. This is a sad, sad story. So I haven't had much luck with Pallitiflorums in trying to pollinate them, but this one happened to have like 3 inflows at a time. So the plan was to try and self-pollinate it, but in the process of opening this, I did this. So that won't happen this time. Okay, again, the lights are bad, but these are some seedlings. This is my section. Just wanted to quickly show you. So these are my communal pots. So when seeds are harvested, they kind of all go into this and become communal living for a while. Now, once they have, like these ones are ready to go in their individual pots. So these guys in here are Hoffmanii X crossed with red crystallinum. How cute are they? I mean, to be honest, they all look very similar when they're this age. But so I'm gonna just quickly open up a dome and I will show you kind of the next step of where they go to after this. So I keep all my seedlings kind of in a dome to start. I usually like to label them with the date that they're potted. Let me just open this up. So once they're big enough, they go into these little individuals. So these are Crystal Hope Luxe, and I have some Meg Verde Luxe back there. Some of these guys need to be watered. You can kind of tell how it's a bit lighter there. But yeah, so this is kind of where they get to grow up a little bit. And then something I have done, I'll just bring you over here quickly. So this entire section along here, I'm not gonna open it up because it's a pain in the butt, but I added some poly here for the winter just to hold in the humidity and hopefully get some of our little seedlings growing bigger over the winter time. I needed to make space over behind me for a bunch of new seeds. So in there, they're just kind of growing to become bigger plants for you guys. Okay, so I'm sitting at, the background is not beautiful, apologies, but I'm sitting at my work desk and the view behind me is not fantastic. Anyways, I didn't film this because the lighting in the front shop is horrendous and I didn't want to move this plant because if you've ever had a super long inflow with berries on it. They get so heavy and I just didn't want to risk moving the plant and breaking the inflow off. But I was able to harvest a few berries. So the cross on this one was a Magnificum cross with my Ralph Linam Fort Sherman. So this one was kind of a Hail Mary. In the summer, we had a bit of an incident with our freezer. So we just have a little fridge here, like one of the tiny ones that the freezers are just like a drawer basically. No, not a drawer. You know the ones, the little ones? Anyways, somehow the door to the fridge must have stayed open a little bit, which made the freezer essentially kind of start to melt, and then it refroze, and basically it just created a bunch of frozenness literally over our entire pollen. So we had to dethaw it. Lost a bunch of pollen this way, but the Ralph Linam Fort Sherman still seemed okay, and I had Magnificum in the shop receptive at the time, and we just kind of went, try it and see what happens, and it took. So I'm excited about that. I am hoping, it's not my ideal cross with this plant to use for that pollen, but we're gonna grow them out and we're gonna see what they look like. I'm sure they'll be cool. Again, probably some variation. I am hoping that they will go more towards the Ralph Linam Fort Sherman, obviously, but we won't know until we know. So I think I might turn the camera around, show you guys how we open up these, and kind of show you how I put them into my little communal living pots for now. So at this stage, you want to make sure that you kind of get off all the little gunk that comes in the berry. So there's a good example. Look at the size difference on those two. One is really nice and big and the other is quite small. All right, so I like to germinate mine in moss. So they've got their communal pot here. So once your seeds are really, really clean, you can wash them off with water as well. I usually just use the paper towel and get it all off. And then you just kind of drop them in on top of the moss. I don't bury them. I literally just plunk them on top of the moss. And these should start germinating in the next few days. So I actually will give you an update in the next couple of days how these are doing and show you what they look like germinated. So today is Wednesday. I will look back on Friday and we can see if there is any progress in these being germinated. Hi friends, welcome back. Okay, it's about a month later. I'm sorry, things got crazy and I wasn't able to continue filming this one, but I can show you now what they look like a month later. My tag on here says October 18th. So we're a little over a month. And here they are. These are those little seeds that we potted in here. So these are almost ready to start being put into their little individual containers. So I'll probably start doing that in about a week or two. And that's when you'll really see a size up, when you put them into an individual container. So I'm really excited for these ones. So I'm going to end the video here. I hope that helped. It was a very basic guide to breeding anthuriums, and yeah, very simple. There's so much more complexity that can go into it, but I wanted to keep it really simple for this video. Anyways, thanks for joining. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.